What's going on, everybody? This is Sean of Raw Select Music. Today I want to talk about this record right here. This is Bonus Levels by Dibia, released on Green Llama, Fat Beats, and 1030. Green Llama and 1030, I believe, are both Dibia imprints. This was a record that I was really looking forward to once it got announced. One, I'm a huge fan of Dibia, especially after I picked up his 2011 Sound Palace album. And a lot of it also has to do with the fact that Dibia is sort of revered in my mind, largely because his records are so hard to get a hold of in Japan without going through auction or Discogs, and also through a lot of the random tracks that I've heard through SoundCloud. Other DJs and friends of mine have played me some of the best of Dibia's tracks, and I really like his sound. So naturally, when I heard that he had a new project coming out, I knew that I had to jump on it because I definitely didn't want to be left behind, and I wanted to make sure I picked this up before I couldn't get my hands on it anymore. So now that I've given it quite a few listens, I want to let you know whether or not it was worth the wait and whether or not it's worth checking out. So with that little introduction out of the way, let's talk about this guy. Beep beep. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar with who Dibia is, he's a beat maker based out of LA who really started making a name for himself back in 2010 through the release of his first album, I believe, Machines Hate Me, as well with a lot of his work that he was doing with the Low End Theory event out in LA, which for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, was a huge collaborative event for a lot of the big names that started coming out in the beginnings of the 2010s, names like Daedalus, Ross G, rest in peace, but probably one of the biggest names to come out of that event, Flying Lotus. Dibia was all a part of it, and he really started making a name for himself with a lot of his lo-fi but still really creative beats, using that sort of typical of the 2010s J Dilla swing heavy unquantized drums that have been so much a part of like a lot of the underground beat makers out there. But I do think that he really has a sound that stands out for himself, and if you can still get your hands on it, I definitely recommend that you check out Sound Palace, as it's definitely one of the best early 2010s beat tapes that I've heard. So like I said in my introduction, Dibia records are sort of hard to get a hold of in Japan, so that was reason number one that I wanted to pick this record up. But reason number two was when I'd heard that this record was going to be exclusively made with classic video game sounds from the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Genesis, I immediately got even more excited because I'm still a little bit of a nerd like that. I've never explicitly said it on this channel, but I do like a lot of video games. I've been playing video games my entire life, and I still do play video games to this day. And a lot of those sort of classic video game soundtracks are still embedded in my mind, and they really do tickle my nostalgic funny bone. So knowing all that, I went in this record expecting that Dibia was going to be bringing his expertise of gritty lo-fi hip-hop and merging it with classic video game samples. And I'll be damned if that's not exactly what I got from this record. Dibia does an amazing job of, one, pulling from only the finest video game samples that you can imagine, but also chopping them in pretty creative ways. There's obviously going to be, for anyone who's played a retro game in their life, you're going to recognize a lot of the melodies on here. But in some instances, he actually pulls from some odd territories that you wouldn't normally expect. And there's a few instances where rather than pulling from some of the more iconic songs and sounds from a particular game, he actually opts for some more obscure and more left of center choices for some of the samples in his songs. Honestly, I think it actually makes for a more rewarding listen. Without looking at the track list, you do end up having to play a little bit of a guessing game as to what particular game that he's pulling from. And it does make for a pretty entertaining listen. But that's not the only thing that makes for a pretty entertaining listen. His beats on here are fantastic. No two song on here sounds the same. There's tons of songs that that are a bit more laid back, some of them are a little bit heavier, some of them just slap you straight up in the face, some of them are actually just straight up entertaining. The last track on here completely abandons the world of hip-hop and goes for a full-on juke footwork style assault and is an excellent sort of left hook finisher for the album. This is kind of a weird record to talk about because there's not really that much to discuss about it. I feel like DiBiase's choice of drums perfectly work within all the samples, whether he's going for a more straight up hip hop sound or even pulling from the video games themselves to create some of his own drum kits. His sampling and production on here is positively top notch, and honestly, I really don't know what to say about this other than if you're a fan of video games, give this a listen, and if you're a fan of hip hop, give this a listen, and if you're a fan of DiBiase, give this a listen. There's really not that much to complain about. Even with some of the shorter tracks in here that clock in under a minute, still feel like fully formed ideas and work actually as pretty good interludes into the rest of the album. The album's got a great listening flow to it, and there's definitely some tracks on here that I could definitely see myself throwing into a DJ set. Which brings me to my one and only complaint, and has less to do with the music, but has more to do with the pressing of the record. Now, I've talked about this a little bit in some of my videos, but as cool as these kind of records look, they are an absolute bitch to DJ with. And the main reason is because of their translucency, a lot of the other side of the record bleeds through, so it makes it really, really hard, especially in a dark room, to differentiate the different track breaks between all the songs. Add on top of that, that all the songs on here sort of blend and transition into each other, and it makes for a record that's kind of frustrating to DJ with. It's not a total deal breaker, and I'm still happy to have a physical copy of this record, but it is sort of annoying with all the excellent beats on here that I would like to be able to play out. It does make this record a little bit more challenging to play in a club setting, and in that case I may not end up playing a lot of songs from there, which is a shame because there are some absolute slappers on here. There are definitely some tracks to break your neck on this record. But overall, I gotta say, I love this record. It's definitely one of my favorite DiBiase projects to date. If you love video games, give this guy a listen. If you love DiBiase, give this guy a listen. And if you're looking for some video game infused hip-hop beats, can't go wrong with Bonus Levels. Easily one of my favorite projects of 2019. So that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching. If you've given this record a listen, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. If you want to check this record out for yourself, as always, please head over to my WordPress or Steemit blogs, because that's where I will be posting audio links to any of the records that I talk about on this channel. And as always, please head over to my Mixcloud and check out Raw Select Radio, the audio component podcast, whatever, to this whole Raw Select music thing. There you can hear me play records like the ones that I talk about in this video, as well as a whole host of other records that I have in my collection that I don't get a chance to talk about on this channel. Links for everything, as always, down in the description. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. So until then, peace out!